Good evening, brothers and sisters. God bless you all. Hope you're having a blessed day. Today, we are going to speak about the 10 Commandments. We're going to kind of go through them, explain what they are, kind of give you a brief explanation on how we keep them and kind of what they mean. So, there's hundreds and hundreds of commandments. You have the top 2 commandments to love God and to love your neighbor. You have the 10 commandments where the first 4 are about loving God. The last 6 are about loving your neighbor. You have hundreds of commandments that either have to do with loving God or loving your neighbor. There's many commandments we can't keep because we're not in the land. There's not a temple, things of that nature. But if it wasn't for those reasons, then the commandments would still be be able to be carried out. They're all still intact. Nothing has changed. Just like Yeshua, just like Jesus said in Matthew 5:17, not a jot or tittle will change until heaven and earth pass. That has not happened. Nothing has changed. So we are going to be reading in the book of Exodus, chapter 20, pretty much verses 1 through 17. It speaks of the 10 commandments. Okay, so verse 1 says, "And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me." So, in these verses, if you read them, where it says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me," that's gods with a little g. Whenever you are speaking of the one true God, that would always be a capital G. Lowercase g means any false god. There's scripture that calls Satan the god of this world, little g, because he's ruling it right now and has many deceived and kind of wreaking havoc on this earth right now. So pretty much the first commandment is, I am the Lord thy God. I am Yahweh, thy Elohim. Elohim is another word for God. Yahweh was his name. So, and thou shalt have no other gods, false gods before me. To keep that commandment, sometimes we can be a god to ourselves because we go off what we say about this, what we say is right and wrong, what we say is righteous, unrighteous, what we say is love and not love. We leave that up to God. God is who tells us how to love, how to be righteous, so on and so forth. That's the first commandment there. To get a little deeper into it, when we, like I'm self-employed. I used to be so driven by success and wanting to just build up my business. And that I was so driven by that, a lot of us, we live in a world where we're so busy with this, we're so busy with that. It's very easy to put God on a back burner and just not really think about him much. And, the scriptures tell us, if we don't love God more than our mother, father, son, or daughter, more than ourselves, we're not worthy of him. So we have to get a change in perspective and train ourselves to think differently. Not allowing our own goals and ambitions to just blind us to God and his ways. So commandment number 1, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Number 2, verse 4, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I am the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. So, that's something we got to understand, is God defines love as action. If you love him, you will keep his commandments and he will show mercy. Everybody talks about grace. Well, grace was in the Old Testament. He had mercy, to those that love him. So commandment number 2 is idolatry and graven images. We shouldn't bow ourselves down to any false gods or even follow any false God's religion. I mean, and it can be a lot of different things. It could be something as simple as sports and sports figures. I used to be a victim of that, or be guilty of that. Sports was everything to me. People that know me know how bad I was with sports. I would just, it was everything to me. A huge Kobe fan, sports, and yeah, too much pride. So we got to, make sure that we don't have idols, and we don't, place these idols and people, or whatever, so many different things. It can be one thing for this person, another thing for that, but, we cannot allow ourselves to do that. Easier said than done, but we got to start somewhere. Commandment number 3, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. When I was younger, it was always said, taking the Lord's name is in vain would be saying a swear word and then saying his name. And I'm not going to say that that's not a form of taking his name in vain, but I believe that the truest form of that is when you claim the blood of Yeshua, when you claim the blood of Messiah, and you profane it by living a lawless life and just living and practicing sin, then that's truly taking the Lord's name in vain. There's a big difference between trying to learn God's commandments, trying to figure those things out, and not being perfect, than just practicing sin. And a lot of religion can accomplish that by throwing out these laws and thinking that they don't have to be kept. And then you practice lawlessness because you do it all the time. So, do not take the Lord's name in vain is commandment number 3. Commandment number 4 would be verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. To be holy means to be set apart. It is different than the rest. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Okay, so the Sabbath, which would be Saturday. The biggest thing with the Sabbath is rest, is not working, not performing, work for money. He says it is a sign between, him and his children. The way I keep it, because it says not your maidservant, not your manservant, no one that's in your gates. So let's say the bug spraying, pest control guy wants to come on Saturday and spray for bugs. It's not happening. You're not going to be working on this property in this house on that day. We can do it any other day, but not that day. I'm self-employed. I don't work on the Sabbath. I don't shop. I don't go get fast food, because to me, even though those people are working, if I go do those things, they are my servant for that amount of time, even if it's just a couple minutes. And let me not bend the law to say, not a big deal. Let me keep it as best as I can. And it takes time. It takes practice. It wasn't easy at first. I keep the Sabbath technically Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, because if you go to Genesis, when God declared days, he said there was evening and there was morning, and that was the first day, evening and morning. Second day, evening and morning, to where the way it seems that God created days, a day ends literally when that day ends, and with the evening starts a new day. Not only should you be resting, that doesn't mean just sleep all day. I mean, we should focus more on God and get more into maybe teachings or scripture or fellowship, and really try to focus on God as much as possible. That would be commandment number 4. So those are the 4 that have to do with loving God. Okay, number 5. verse 12. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. So honor thy mother, thy father. Respect thy mother, thy father. I get it that depending on who your parents are, that might be a lot easier said than done. It was something I struggled with. To be honest, I wanted to murder my father for 18 years. And, I can be pretty aggressive and pretty, anger problem kind of guy. And, I wanted to do it with my bare hands. It was something I really struggled with. Even wrapping my head around forgiving him didn't make any sense to me until God opened my eyes and could give me a better understanding of that. So I get it. It's sometimes it's easier said than done. My father has done some horrific things in the past, and I don't glorify him like I do the Father, but I honor him because without him I would not be here. It's that simple. And at one point he was an innocent child, and this earth, this world we live in, the enemy got the best of him and turned him into the person he became. So I can forgive my father, I can honor my father, and I can forsake him all at the same time. And I do all three of those things. So, taking care of our parents, if they need help with something or as they get into older age, and, just honoring them, respecting them, taking care of them, kind of respect your elders kind of thing. But, honor thy mother and thy father. Commandment number 5. Commandment number 6, verse 13, thou shalt not murder. In this Bible, the King James, it says thou shalt not kill. That is a mistranslation, because in God's law, he would tell them to kill at certain times to exercise punishment and things of that nature. It's a little hard to understand, but that is the truth of the matter. Thou shalt not murder, meaning shed innocent blood. That is verse number 6. Or commandment number 6, actually verse 13 here. So verse 14 would be commandment number 7, thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not cheat on their wife or their husband. Yeshua, Jesus goes a little more in depth into that in the Gospels and talks about, just having the want to cheat, being guilty already because in your heart, so really just being faithful, being loyal, thou shalt not commit adultery. Commandment number 8, which would be verse 15, thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not steal. There's many ways you can steal. You can steal time, you can steal money, you can steal belongings, a lot of things you could do to steal. And, that's a pretty, cut and dry commandment, thou shalt not steal. Commandment number 9, verse 16, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. A lot of places it said thou shalt not lie. That is not actually a commandment. Not to say lying is good or anything like that, but the commandment is thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. So you will not lie on someone to get them in trouble. That is the main issue. There could be situations, Rahab, the harlot, lied and said, I don't know where they are. I don't know where they went. And she did the right thing there. So it's not just as simple as not lying. Lying in general pretty much is bad. If you cheat on your spouse and you lie about it to not hurt their feelings, well, that's ridiculous. And you're breaking multiple commandments. Thou shalt not bear false witness is commandment number 9. If you had a grandmother that said, had this ugly sweater, and she said, sweetie, what do you think of this sweater that I made for myself? And maybe it's the ugliest thing you ever saw. Are you supposed to tell her the truth there? Or do you say, Grandma, it's lovely. It's lovely. I love it. Probably should. So, commandment number 9, thou shalt not bear false witness. Commandment number 10 is, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. So it's like envy, wanting something that's not yours. It takes self-restraint. Coveting leads to the breaking of many, 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 many commandments. You could covet vehicles, people, clothes, lifestyles, success, so many different things you could covet. So we got to have some self-control and not allow ourselves to do that. Somebody has a nicer car than you, cool, good for you, no problem. Be grateful for what you have. Sometimes having a lot of things like that can blind you to God and loving him and needing him in your life. If you were to read the Catholic 10 Commandments, not trying to pick on the Catholic religion, but if you read the Catholic 10 Commandments, they're not the same as this. What they did is they removed the second commandment about idolatry, about graven images, and moved everything up in line. So the third became the second, fourth became the third, so on and so forth. And then they broke the 10th commandment into two: thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, and thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's things, which is one commandment, but they broke it into two to make up for the one that they removed, basically to get away with praying to Mary, worshiping the saints, praying to the saints. That's idolatry. Believe it or not, that is idolatry, and that is an abomination to the Father, to God. Technically, praying to Mary is necromancy, praying to a dead person. She did find favor in the eyes of God, but she was no deity. She was no God herself. We pray to the Father in the name of the Son is the proper way to pray. So, just a quick review. Number 1, thou shalt, I am the Lord thy God. I am Yahweh thy Elohim. Thou shalt have no other false gods before me. Commandment number 2 is no graven images, no idolatry. Commandment number 3 is thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. Bring it to nothing. Bring it to shame. Commandment number 4, to remember the Sabbath and to keep it holy throughout all of your generations. Commandment number 5, to honor thy father and thy mother. Commandment number 6, thou shalt not murder. Commandment number 7, do not commit adultery, stay loyal. Commandment number 8, thou shalt not steal. Commandment number 9, thou shalt not bear false witness on anyone to get them into trouble. And commandment number 10, thou shalt not covet anything of anybody else's. It's no good. It leads to all kinds of evil. So there is a breakdown of the 10 commandments. They're not the only commandments, but those are the top 10, branching off of the top 2. So I hope you guys enjoyed this teaching. I hope someone is blessed by this. Love you guys. God bless you all. And until next time.